Hi there guys and welcome to another Train Sim 2018 video. Today we're back on the Portsmouth Direct Line, the modern version, the updated version, the new version, and we're at Guildford. So good morning and welcome to Guildford. You join us on unit 444039, which is birthed, I like that, I prefer stabled. We'll moan at Chris about that one, it's his scenario. In platform 5 for train 2 Papa 03, which forms the 0509 South Western Railway service to Portsmouth Harbour, calling at Hazelmere, Liphook, List, Petersfield, Rowlands, Castle, Havant, Bedhampton. Some wicked names on this route that I still haven't really got my head round. Hillsea, Fratton, Portsmouth, Southsea and Portsmouth Harbour. Open the doors and prepare for departure. Okay, nice and simple. Usual Chris sort of blurb there. I'm looking forward to this one. There is another one that was a bit longer in a 456 that he'd done, and I was tempted by that. But I'm still a bit sold by the 444s. Lots of people out there are moaning and saying route's nice, stock's crap. The stock isn't crap. Okay, the stock isn't bad. The sounds are. We know that. We know that. Speaking to Ed, who's the guy that actually did the sounds and scripting on this, all he was given to work from was the old 450 sounds. So considering that's what he had to work with, that's all right. Is that an excuse? No. Is it the reason why they're pants? Yes. But it's the dovetail flywheel, isn't it? We've all bought it anyway. We've all bought it. And the model itself, again, like I said in the last video, stunning. Very, very pretty model. Not perfect, I wouldn't say, with the wheels spinning the wrong way and things like that. There are the odd issue with it. But actually, how it looks, it's MKS through and through, isn't it? Cab is beautiful. Functionality-wise, limited. Ed said something interesting on it. I don't even know if it was Ed that actually said it. Somebody said it wasn't intended to be a Pro Series DLC. So, from what I can work out with that is that DTG have obviously heard us whinging about quality. So now they're using their Pro Series thing as a way to get around the consistency and quality issues. Poor show. Poor show. I don't think they should be making anything in this day and age that isn't Pro. Really? You might. Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. This is quite a long journey if I remember right. I think it was about an hour and a quarter. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of manual read through while we'll be doing this as well. Depends on how stoppy servicey it is going to be. I've still not mastered the driving of this thing yet. And we'll be turning that off, and that's with Control and D, guys. It will be a real world manual for the 444. It won't be a train sim manual, because the train sim manual that came with this is pants. Let's be completely honest. In my last video, I said that you can't even dynamically change the destinations. You can. It's with Control 5 and 6. But of course, they don't list that in the manual, so I wasn't able to tell you that. Again, this has been another dig I've had with DTG before, is about creators, especially Ed. It does seem to have done quite a lot, putting a lot of effort into these things, and then the manuals coming out that are far too useless for what they should be. Down to the point where you can't even the 75, the Woodhead route. I have no real idea what I was doing with that. What's that one? Let's try that one. Got 60 minutes. I need to keep the speed because Chris will whinge at me if I'm late on his scenario. Right to class 444 and 450 driver's manual. So this is a relatively up-to-date manual. And I'll pick out the sort of decent bits. Some of these, especially the more modern ones, can be a little bit heavy when it comes to sort of TMS walkthroughs and things like that. This is the second Siemens unit I'll have had a manual for. The first one being the 380, and Siemens use some really weird names, like human touch interface and all sorts of weird things. So the 444s and 450s, year built 2003, manufacturer Siemens. Formation is 444s, a 5-car, and 450s, a 4-car. Maximum speed is 100 mile an hour. Coupler, they have a Delna, made fully coupled to other 444s and 450 units. 4585s with no electrical connection, and 455s using the emergency coupling adapter. Length is for the 444 is 23 metres per coach, like most mainline intercity stock, and then the 450 is 20 metres, a bit like some suburban stock. And they're maintained at Northam Depot. The units are fully air conditioned and have facilities for disabled passengers. So we'll look down at the front end. So we've got our horns down here. Emergency hose isolation cock would also be just about here as well, and we've got a main reservoir isolation cock here for coupling to things that we usually wouldn't couple to. Oh, this one's quite nice. It's got all the underframe equipment noted and everything. Oh, this is definitely a manual to go through properly with you guys. We'll do some bits of it. So we start off with the 750 volt equipment. It says here the 750 volt line supply is collected by 8 collector shoes, 4 on each driver motor composite. Is it driver motor composite DMC? I'd guess so, because they've got the first class bit in it. With all these collector shoes, it is possible to gap a unit. No collector shoes in contact with a live rail. Therefore, the driver must learn where the third rail gaps are, which is a route learning issue. Which is always a fun thing to know. And so what you've got to remember is the drivers will need to know at what point the third rail gap's large enough for a whole unit to get stuck. I wonder how many points on the system there actually are. We could do that. The 750 volt bus line feeds via the high-speed circuit breakers, traction converters and auxiliary converters. Heating the passenger saloon is automatically controlled via the heating, ventilation and air conditioning system and cannot be altered by the driver. Heating in the driving cab is adjusted by the control panel on the bulkhead behind the driver's seat. Guessing around there. We'll get to that though. We'll get to that. When the train is connected to the overhead trolley system, what is that? Is this some depot piece of equipment that I don't know about? We'll have to have a read of that in a minute, won't we? Find out what that is. Operation of the high-speed circuit breakers. The opening of the high-speed circuit breaker will prevent the traction converter and auxiliary converter from operating at that particular end. Knock-on result is no traction motors. The state of the high-speed circuit breakers can be accessed on the TMS by pressing the main system soft key number 7. If one or more of the high-speed circuit breakers is open, the switch on the desk will illuminate. Drivers may reset the high-speed circuit breakers by operating the high-speed circuit breaker switch. If the high-speed circuit breaker will not reclose, the driver must stop the train in a suitable location and check the TMS. Contact the signaller for further advice and phone a friend if unable to solve the problem. Phone a friend. Chris Tarrant sorts that out for you. You get to call him on Geordie's retro Nokia mobile, which I thought was quite cool. Right on a gradient there as well. I lost my thing there. The line light will only be available in the cab in use with the master key switch away from off. So the line light is here, and that tells us that we're getting power from the third rail. Just like if you had an overhead line light tells you whether your pantograph is touching, you're getting power. This is like the third rail is touching, so you've got power. That's what your line light is. When passing through known conductor rail gaps, the driver must select no more than notch 2 until the whole train has passed over the gap. If the driver experiences a loss of line volts and it is not restored other than where expected, i.e. passing through a third rail gap, the driver must consider the first most convenient location to stop. The driver must consider eventualities such as facilities to aid detraining. So you'd want to like try and get somewhere where you've got no third rail on the cess side, or you're near a platform. You could maybe roll into a platform or whatever. When driving in depots, yards and sidings where the line speed is low, drivers must be aware of the risk of becoming gapped, as a holding brake application could be initiated when the speed of the train is below 2 miles per hour and the power brake controller is in the off position. So this quite steep gradient coming up. There has been a few complaints about gradients and speed limits and stuff along the route, but I think there is actually people already working to correct that, which is really nice to know. Right, so cutting in the unit. So it's a very southern term, isn't it? Cutting in. You don't hear that on overhead AC at all, do you? Or am I just making it up? I've never heard it, and it's definitely not in any of my manuals, cutting in. But like 400 series manuals and stuff, they quite often talk about cutting in. To cut in the batteries, either using a carriage key, rotate the external cab door, switch clockwise and hold for 3 seconds, then back to centre and remove carriage key. If the driving cab and above procedure has not been performed, press the battery on button located in the bulkhead behind the driver for at least 5 seconds. This action will be required if the driver has entered the cab using the external egress handle. You want to hope somebody's reset that. If no main reservoir is available, use external egress handle to open the cab door. As per item 2 above, ensure the egress handle has been fully replaced and cover correctly closed, then the cab door open manually. Then you would switch the master switch into the neutral position, set the high-speed circuit breakers with a high-speed circuit breaker switch on the driving desk. Check that the high-speed circuit breaker switch extinguishes. Should we find the high-speed circuit breaker switch? I mean, it will be modelled. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not going to be modelled, because it will be. People that know these trains going, Alan, it's there, you've already passed it, what are you going on about? There we go. See, even that to work would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Functionality-wise. Right, let's prepare to stop at Housemere. Then we can carry on reading after that. Use this gradient to our advantage. Oh, my 4 car. Oh, should have really checked that. It's like we'll make the 8 car board. So cutting the unit out, there's actually the disposal manual, which I do have, but I won't get to tonight. If there's plans to switch off the 3rd rail 750 volt line supply while the unit is in the above state, fleet staff may immobilise the unit. This will prevent the batteries from running low and not be able to start the unit when next required. This is not a job for a driver and must be left for fleet staff. Note, if 32F10 MCB is tripped, the tail light will not be available. Place a portable tail lamp on the train, both ends if necessary. Unless instructed, do not lock the cab doors using carriage keys operated cab door lock. This is for locking cab doors after a fault. Okay. Well, actually, coupling adapter cupboard looks pretty cool. I love the really adventurous names. It's a bit like if you've watched the 180 videos. It's Paul Tireman continuously saying, in the 3901 cupboard. So it's constant. This one has a 146 cupboard. Just got some compressor bits in it. Has a 357 cupboard. The 357 cupboard contains battery contactors, MCBs, isolation switches, and isolation switches. And it does carry a short circuit bar. And a T-spanner for changing shoe fuses, which looks like it hasn't changed in design for a long, long time. 9 paddles. The emergency equipment cupboard is called the if crash cupboard. The if crash cupboard. That's very cool. And it contains first aid kit, crowbar, rope, axe, saw, hammer, ladder, light shapes, and 1 set of TCOC and bottled water. TCOC. Track circuit operating clips. There we go. Smart. No, just read too many manuals, Alan. There's a 341 cupboard, MCBs, and there's a 447 cupboard. The buffet isolation switch. In the event of a fire occurring in the buffet, this switch must be isolated by the train crew. Ooh, full cab controls. Right, is there anything I don't know in here? I did say this the other day, I'm sure there was something. I think it might actually be the it was power reductions, anything. I know what I want to find out. What that little twisty wheel thing is that isn't in this manual. Right, power reduction button. There has been many a theory thrown out with this one so far. A few people have commented correctly on the other YouTube videos. For low speed movements, sorry, it's a slow speed button, reading the wrong one. Power reduction button. This button must only be operated when authorised by the signaller or when written or by written order. When operated, it will limit traction power to 50% in order to prevent overloading of the traction supply system. What that basically means is if there is an issue at any of the substations or feeder stations, you might get asked to go to half power, and what that basically entails is you will be running at 50% power. Everything will work, AC, everything like that, but your actual traction power will be limited to 50%. It's for so you don't overload, so take too much juice from the rail, basically. Normally when the master, tail light button is here. Normally when the master key is removed, the red tail lights are automatically illuminated. Am I going to roll in slow enough? Let's do that. When the master switch is off, the tail lights override button. This must only be used as and when required by the rulebook and must always be returned to its normal position when not in use. Always check the tail light override button illuminates when shutting down the driver cab from normal service. So that is... Don't proven lights or anything, do we? I don't know where that one is. Oh, God. No, not into emergency. Not what I wanted to do. But it hasn't set as an emergency brake, so it's fine. Okay, sounds with this traction brake controller. They were working until a very last minute hitch meant that this train did not work with an Xbox 360 controller. They fixed it. Problem was, when they fixed it, the sounds didn't work. So instead of delaying release, they released it without the power brake controller making any noises. This is a bit like that 180 video where they go back. You get the first one where they go, "The Adelante, it's the greatest thing in the world. It has a refresca coffee machine. A little man in a wheelchair looks happy." And then like a month later they're going, "Yeah, nah, it's just not supposed to do that. That light, yeah, it's not meant to. Yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah, it's not very good." This video's a bit like that, isn't it? But I hope it's the opposite. I hope in a couple of months' time I'll be getting an update for this and I'll be going, "Yay, it's brilliant." Right, high-speed circuit breakers, switch. That's this Dubry here. Big, yeah, no, hang on. Lists it in a different position. Maybe it's in a different position on some units. Class 444 and 450 units are fitted with high-speed circuit breakers known as HSCBs. These are designed to disconnect the train's auxiliary systems from the traction current supply in the event of an equipment malfunction or a fire on the train. When the high-speed circuit breaker is open, the train and driver is alerted by the illumination of the yellow HSCB open-close switch on the driving desk. If the high-speed circuit breaker open-close switch illuminates, the driver must attempt to close the HSCB by operating the switch to the on position and checking the yellow light goes out. If the light does not extinguish, the driver should check the line indicator as is illuminated before checking for any fault message on the TMS. If the line indicator is not illuminated, check that the unit is not gapped or whether the traction current has been switched off. Do not commence a journey with the HSCB switch illuminated unless authorised to do so by phone a friend. It just keeps cropping up in there. Phone a friend. This is some SWR thing. The standing button on the driving desk is for assistance in starting the train and only operates when the PBC is in a position of power. In the event of low adhesion, the standing button must not be operated during braking, as this has no effect. During braking, sound is applied automatically, provided the braking activity is more than 50% wheel slide activity is detected and the train speed is above 10 miles an hour. The standing button will illuminate to indicate WSP activity. So you've got to have WSP more than 50% of the time before you can put a bit of sand down. You can see why drivers started to get a bit annoyed when they took some power away from in the modernisation of systems, didn't they? Just to do that, because the little wires there looked wonderful. Really like that. That wire, do you see that wire there? That didn't need to be there, did it? But they've put it in. It's really good. Still fun little bits I like. The hill start button. The hill start button must only be used when the train has been driven in restricted drive mode. The correct technique for using this button is to press and hold the button whilst the PBC is in a braking position. Move the brake controller through to the desired power setting and release the button as soon as the traction braking indicator moves into the traction sector. Oh, nice, huge downhill gradient here. Stick a little bit of a heavier brake on there. Now I ended up getting in too early. Oh, close to being an overrun there. We're ahead of the stop sign, I know, so somebody's going to go, it is an overrun because you were ahead of the stop sign. Yeah, we were ahead of the stop sign. Fair bit, to be fair. Yeah, in front of the signal as well. Right, emergency braking. Class 444s and 450 trains are fitted with an emergency brake position on the power brake controller. An emergency brake service update. It seems a freight train ahead is having some power issues, of which the driver is currently in contact with GBRF operations to troubleshoot the problem. More information will follow. This is what we call crucifixion. Okay, the class 444 and 450 trains are fitted with emergency brake position on the power brake controller and emergency brake plunger on the driving and non-driving positions. The driving cabs. Once they are operated, the train will come to a stand before the brakes can be released. If drivers experience problems with the service braking positions on class 444s and 450 units, they should stop the train immediately using the emergency brake plunger. Drivers are reminded that they must not place anything on the driving desk that might obstruct the operation of the PBC or emergency brake plunger. Also, they must not obstruct the cab to passenger accommodation exit door. So I'm getting something that blocks that or blocks here. I'm going to take it easy coming out of here because I'm going to be stopped. Right, emergency procedure. Initial response to an incident or emergency. Remember, stay calm, don't panic. Plan, prioritise, act. SPA. SPP. No, we love an acronym when it comes to emergency planning, don't we? Try to reassure affected passengers by speaking directly to affected passengers, using the public address system if appropriate. If it is likely that passengers will react to an emergency situation, heart attacks, violence, fires, etc., by operating the PASCOM or emergency egress handle if possible, use the passenger alarm override push button to avoid stopping in unsuitable locations such as inside tunnels, viaducts or cuttings. Speak to the guard, advise him of her location instant using information on the PIS or TMS display, such as passenger information system or the train management system. Once the guard has investigated the incident, he or she will advise you of nature of emergency and if train protection is required. If the emergency services are required, contact the signal and advise him or her of the situation. That would have just been better to say contact the signal and advise them of the situation. Making a rail emergency call, so a REC call. To make an emergency call, press the red button on the GSMR. In all cases when making an emergency call, you must remember to state the following. This is an emergency call. Confirm you are speaking to the correct signaller, because that's happened where you've not been speaking to the correct signaller, like miles away, not the correct signaller. Identify yourself, train number, use the phonetic alphabet. You must do this each time you speak to the signaller. Yes, don't be lazy. Do not be lazy. Radio etiquette and radio discipline is one of the biggest things that's come into the railways over the past 20 years. State location, what has happened, exact location of the incident, for example, nearest bridge, station, signal or other structure. So even things like overhead line stanchions have a number on them. They can use those to identify whereabouts you are. State what happened. I've done that. Which lines are obstructed and which lines require an emergency switch off. Whether the attendance to the fire service, the emergency services are required. Get the information repeated back and confirm all is understood. There we go. I knew that was going to happen. Loss of air conditioning caused by failure or instant where traction current is lost can lead to very uncomfortable condition for our passengers within a short space of time, especially during hot weather. That is it in the manual. I'm not going to go into the procedure of that, just because I know if any of you are ever on one, it does happen. You'll be telling them what to do, and I don't. That's not your job. It's quite cool that we're about to get one of those sort of situations. How long are we going to be stuck at this red for? Knowing Chris, it could be ages. Some really good information on emergency procedures in that. I'll be honest with you, this is the best manual for passenger emergency stuff I've ever read. Most thorough, most disciplined, most set out. I'm impressed by that. Right, Siemens call it a TMS in this train, not the human touch interface device or whatever it is. Human device interface. I'm not going to go through how the TMS works because actually once you've seen one of them, it's kind of the same thing. I will look and see if there is anything that's particularly of interest and note. Nothing that we don't really already know. Oh, right, yeah, this is cool. So up here, if this one lights up as an earth fault, that's an earth fault, and not an earth fault as in railway terms, sometimes an earth fault is known if you derail. But 2 earth fault lights here. Axle locked is this one. Safety device trip is this one. Traction fault is this one. TMS fault is this one. Head tail lights fault is here. So that'll be the light that lights up. Only mechanically is here, so I'm guessing only mechanically coupled maybe. OTMR fault. BCU fault. Dragging parking brake. Dragging service brake. Reserve, so that's a spare one obviously. Cab back wall unlocked. Sanding not possible. Door control alarm. DSD alarm, passenger alarm. It's on there, isn't it? Yeah, we can go. So, passenger information system, which is here, is the train intercom system, allows communication between any of the driving cabs, guards, office, guards operating panel within the train formation. Passenger information system is a single channel system and only one person can speak back at a time. Always use the word over before releasing the press to talk button. If you're not expecting a reply, use the word out at the end of your message. So I wonder what freight train's ahead of us. Only Chris would do that to us, wouldn't he? One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 stops. It's long, isn't it? Unit 1 is always the leading unit where the driver key is activated. The driver's cab passenger information system control panel is located in every cab. Really bad because this is called PIS, which while it doesn't spell like piss, it's still piss, isn't it? And that's not swearing. That's what it is. There are 3 guards panels located at 444 and 450 unit, 1 in each driving cab and 1 at the guard's office. The guard cannot set up internal displays until the driver has moved the master switch away from off. Strange feature, isn't it? Press the PA push button on the panel, lift the internal communications header and press the push to talk button. Speak clearly into the handset. Do not hold the handset too close to the mouth. To terminate the announcement, put the handset back in the cradle. And we've got a green now, that's great. So some PASCOM stuff. Oh. Service update. The issue with the train ahead has been rectified and is now on the move. Hopefully no more delays will occur. Good news. Let's get the speed up then. So this is the actual driving instructions right now, my favourite bit. General instructions: control the trainers via single power brake controller, PBC. This controls the braking and the traction power and incorporates a hill start button, which is not normally used by drivers. Shunting and slow speed moves. Caution should be exercised within the confines of station yards and depots when shunt movements are being carried out with the Class 4, 4.4 and 450s. Constant monitoring of the train speeds required, alternating the PBC setting accordingly, as notch 1 may be too much if kept open for too long. You'll soon be over line speed of 5 miles per hour. So if I put this in notch 1 and just left it, it would eventually be in straight track and everything. I think get up to normal speed anyway. So the 444 and the 450 units are fitted with 3 types of braking system: regenerative, dynamic and friction air. The braking system uses the traction motors to slow the train. Electricity generated by the traction motors is fed back into the third rail, which in turn creates a load on the motors and slows them down. Electricity fed back into the third rail system can be used. Pretty sure he said there was no other issue, so that's just going to be a Morpeth board for that 70. Can be used by other trains. If it's isolated, the remaining 2 braking systems will continue to function normally. Dynamic braking, so it's rear stat braking as well. People get these confused sometimes. This braking system also uses the traction motors to slow down the train. The dynamic brake is achieved by turning the traction motors into generators. Resistance is electrically passed across the traction motor windings to create a load across the motor which is strong enough to slow the train, or it can go into a resistance bank on some trains, not on these. Friction brake, which is your air brake, uses compressed air to activate brake pads onto discs on all coaches. So I think these are cheek mounted on this. Emergency brakes. All emergency brake applications or any brake applications not initiated by the driver will be friction brake only. Air brake. During emergency braking procedures, air brakes are applied on all coaches. WSP, so wheel slide protection is available throughout the train. The WSP light on the desk will illuminate if the train detects wheel slide when braking. The sound will be relayed automatically if the PBC is in 50% brake or more. So it's not... Oh, right, now I get it. It's not if it's detecting wheel slip. Oh, sorry, 50% of the time. It's if the brake is in more than 50% brake. Fair enough. That makes more sense to me. Power brake control, the position between low and high, give the driver a variable brake control. There is also an emergency brake position. The hill start button is not to be used by drivers under normal conditions. It's holding the brake on when the train is at a stand. It must be used at all times if restricted drive is operated. Going to go back up to 70 now. DSD, the driver safety device, is a pedal operated and must be depressed when the master switch is either forward or reverse position. However, it incorporates a delay when released, allowing the driver to change feet. The DSD also incorporates the Vigilance, so that is this bad boy down here. And this, I also found out, is an extension plate for this, so if you're short, you can just put that down. On the newer 380s, it's actually movable, adjustable DSD foot pedal, and a lot of the more modern stuff. Vigilance Device. The Vigilance Device operates every 60 seconds when the master switch is in the either forward or reverse position. And this is interesting because this doesn't match what the train does. And it is reset by releasing and depressing the DSD. Failure to perform this action will result in an emergency brake application, an alarm being sent to a signaler via the GSMR after 60 seconds. Isolating the Vigilance will remove an audible warning, therefore increasing the DSD foot pedal in this mode will immediately initiate an emergency brake application. What it doesn't say there, and what I am assured is correct for this these units, is that the Vigilance is actually reset by the horn, movement of the PVC, and something else. I can't remember what it was. AWS button. See how it was just there to remind me. Traction converter units. 2 TCUs are fitted on the Class 444 and 450 units, 1 on each DMC. These convert the DC current picked up at the third rail to AC current to the power traction motors. So they're AC traction motors, even though it's a DC pickup system. So the procedure for starting one. So actually from moving off, move the PCB from the full service position to the lowest brake setting. Pause momentarily before passing gradually through to take traction power. Do not move quickly from a braking step to a power notch. If the train does not take power within 2 or 3 seconds, move the PBC back to the lowest brake setting and wait at least 5 seconds before re-attempting to take production power. When starting the train on a gradient where conditions permit, always use a higher traction power setting when moving off. Do not allow the train to remain stationary with power applied for longer than 2 to 3 seconds. Increased power is necessary to move the train. So it's basically saying you don't need the hill start button on this, it kind of does it itself. I'm guessing it will sort of blend the brake off at some point. Maintaining a train at a stand, except where specifically detailed in the fault and failure guide, the preparation and disposal publications, the train must be held at a stand with the power brake controller in the full service position and master switch at neutral. My bad. Apply the DRA as per the rules. Oh, ASDO, which is, what does it stand for? Automatic selective door operation. This is the little things in. Oh no, there's an actual manual for this. There's actually a good YouTube video on the ASDO stuff. Can't believe we're not fussed about. Why am I dawdling? A real tickly throat. I haven't had one all day. It must be because I'm getting tired. Oh, let's have a read of Train Divided accidentally when we pull out of Roland's Castle. Get this. Still haven't really mastered the brakes in this thing too well yet. Right, train divided accidentally. If a train becomes divided between units, the units may only be recoupled after being authorised by the fleet department. Should it not be possible to recouple, the coupling becomes parted for a second time, or a division occurs between the inner coach's semi-coupler, the separate portions must be dealt with as follows. So, compatible assistance to the rear. If assistance is available in the rear of the divided train in the form of a compatible unit, this must be brought up and coupled to the rear portion. The driver, with guard where provided, may then proceed with the front portion to the first suitable station where it can be taken out of service. The rear portion will be worked forward as a combined train, driven from the leading cab to the first suitable station where it can be taken out of service. No assistance, both portions work forward. If compatible assistance is not available at the rear, arrangements must be made for an additional train crew to be provided so the rear portion to be worked separately. Wow. It's pretty mad, isn't it? A little read of the faults and failures. So there is an initial cab check. When dealing with train faults, use all information available from cab controls, lights and gauges before looking at what is displayed on the TMS screen. So check whilst contacting the signal line light, HSCB, passenger alarm, red lights illuminated on warning panel, look out of cab window for any body side indicator lights, BILs, main reservoir pressure, blue interlock light, all cab MCBs, read and understand the TMS display. Phone a friend. Yeah, this is mostly TMS stuff, if I'm honest with you. It's all a bit heavy for me just to be able to read like that. We've got about 20 minutes of driving left, so it should be quite nice just to actually have a little drive and a normal sort of conversation and chat with you. Have a little look at the train, really, couldn't we? Well, look at the route. I mean, this is part of the route we haven't really covered yet. I mean, I quite like it. I think a lot of places they've thrown in a lot of trees and stuff. There's some bits in back gardens. I mean, for me, it's an interesting manual. This one. I mean, it's not complete, the one I've got by a long shot, but it's the only other Desiro one, I suppose. Or so Desiro, say it how you want. We had the whole tomato song on the stream the other night because of it. And you know I've got weird pronunciation of things. It's weird, I've been to Portsmouth a couple of times. Never by train. It was my first primary school residential trip was to Portsmouth. It was weird. Considering we were a tiny little village school, sort of in like the outskirts of Cambridge, sort of 60 miles from the sea, 70 miles from the sea, 60 odd miles from the sea. We had a fascination with it. I think the other big school trip we had was to London to see the Cutty Sark and go to the Navy Museum. And then we went on a residential to Portsmouth to go on the HMS Victory. And Spitbank Fort, actually, we went to. That was cool. If you ever watched things like... there was a kids' version of it. What was the other one called? It was a bit like Crystal Maze. It was on the forts off Portsmouth. They were very cool, very cool. Stayed in this ropey hostel as well, youth hostel. Mark Tomlin farted on the top bunk and snored like a trooper. Pretty good going for being 11 years old, wasn't it? Sort of the highlight of the trip. Little bangers. You remember those little snaps things you used to throw? I actually got my son some at the beach the other day. I did have to stop him throwing them at seagulls though, which was quite bad. Even though they were being, you know what I mean. He got quite morbid with them. He was like, "Can we put them in chips and give them to the seagulls?" I was like, "Nah, mate, it's not the nicest thing to do, is it?" It's funny how kids' brains work. It's not usually like that either. It's really quite weird. Quite weird. Funny mind, if not a little disturbing. I've seen the humorous side of it. Bedhampton. Sounds like where I'd like to go to my bed. In fact, I wouldn't. In this heat, the shed has been a saviour. It's got the portable air conditioning in it, and it is literally the coldest place. It's been a blessing. Chelsea, Fratton, Portsmouth and Southsea, Portsmouth. Oh, cool. Sounds are awful, aren't they? Such a shame. Poor Ed. Poor Ed. Feel really sorry for MKS as well. quickly what I'd like to do. There's also 377. Supposedly the 377's had a little bit of a makeover as well. Or been updated. Has it? The reskin still looks a bit ropey. Shiny, happy people. Yeah, it's still very shiny. Is it? Okay. Maybe it might have been in the physics department or something, I'm not sure. I'll have to ask. If you guys know, do let me know. So I should really be driving this at the way it told me to, really, shouldn't I? I was really pleased to hear that was a DSD pedal extender. I mean, short people won't have to put the seat the lowest and sit real far forward in the seat. I'm not massively tall. I'm about 5'10". Don't really know. So one of the ones that goes to Bristol, I think, isn't it? Portsmouth, Bristol, is it? I can never remember. Chris will be on there in a second telling me exactly what it is. I wasn't even at. That is a 40 limit there at Fratton, so we'll make sure we can actually get into that relatively easily. That's quite a cool station with 450s over there, look. train wash. There we are. Oh, to be super profesh. One thing I will say is the underframe detailing isn't up to MKS's standard. DR8. Hell. I must say the textures on the trains are of an incredibly high quality. I mean, like the level of grime and sort of weathering are exquisite. But then again, there is talk of these being like nearly 8K textures, so pretty fandangle. Well, 4 car stops there. Well, 5. I love the detail that they've put into the track work and everything. They've brought up sort of South London network sort of standards, which I quite like. Last stop on this amazingly long service. No, video I've thoroughly enjoyed actually. I've enjoyed going through the manual. It's been ages since I've done a good read through of a manual. And I've been waiting to do a 444 one for a long, long time. like I said in my video, I do like the 444 more than the 450. It's just, it is intercity stock really, isn't it? It's not, none of that suburban stuff. I have to look up where the youth hostel was that we stayed at, because I remember seeing like 400 series EMUs, 6 Bigs Veps, whatever they were, back in the day. Sort of in a cutting a little bit, big high fence beside it. Just described every bit of railway in Britain there, haven't I? In a cutting with a bit of high fence around it. I think that was in the grounds. I think I saw the trains from the grounds of the youth hostel. I think we did a sports day thing when we were there, when they made us play rounders or something. This is us at Portsmouth Harbour. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you want to see more manual read-throughs, do let me know in the comments below. Not everybody's cup of tea. I've tried to do a bit of both of this one, hoping that new route might bring more people to them. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe. So the 2 big ones there, well, they're all 3 quite big ones. Sharing these videos, getting them out and about, getting my name more widely known will do me massive favours at the minute. Massive favours. I'm not going to open my door, so I'm still going to waffle on. I will do, because I'm going to waffle on for a minute anyway. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Do subscribe and just click that little bell icon. It means that you'll get notified as soon as one of my new videos comes up. I know you will look on your own subscriber list and go, oh, well, Alan's got a new video, and click on it. But you click that bell, it makes YouTube like me a little bit more. Join me on Twitch on a Sunday evening from 7 o'clock and on a Wednesday evening from 7 o'clock. Both run through till late. It is of the more adult content. It is a little bit more sweary. It is a little bit more adult humour. Not adult in the nudity sense. It is adult in the more vulgar sense and foul language sense. But still a good fun. Heading over to Facebook if you want to ask me any questions or specifically for technical support. Recently there's been quite a few people asking me for tech support in the comment section of YouTube. This has happened, please help. It's really hard for me to reply to you in that, because the way the notifications work on YouTube, I don't get a notification that you've replied to a comment on mine, and it doesn't sync up in order unless I come back to my computer, which isn't often. So 2-3 times a week most. And usually by then I'm either recording or I'm streaming and I haven't got time to do it. If you want your question answered about tech support, head on over to the Facebook page. There are lots of other people and me who can answer your questions for you. People that are 10 times better than me at doing it as well. general inquiries and things like that, of course, you can just drop me a message on there and I'll see what I can do. Also, you have my new website, which should be up and running in the next couple of weeks, and that is alanthomsonsim.com. So you can head on over there and have a look at that. And I'll tell you when it's fully out, when it's fully ready. It's not quite there yet. So once again, guys, thanks ever so much for joining me, and I will catch you next time.